At that time, the Mexico Puebla mission was, like I've mentioned before, it's most of the area between the Mexico City area and the state of Veracruz, and so it had most of the Mexican state of Puebla, as well as the state of Tlaxcala. And Tlaxcala is a word from the Aztec language. I think it means something about like tortillas or like places where they make tortillas. And there's a lot of places, like most of the places in the Puebla mission, both I guess now both of the Puebla missions have a mixture of Spanish names and Aztec names, and that made it really interesting because writing emails home, I would have a hard time first of all learning how to pronounce the places, and then my parents wouldn't be able to tell anyone where I was at because they wouldn't know how to pronounce it. But they'd have places like one of my areas was the town was San Gabriel Ometoxtla, and how it got the name was the people that had gone through there, they'd arrived in this town on the day of San Gabriel. I guess every Catholic saint has like a certain day. So they arrived there on the day of San Gabriel, and then they looked around and they saw that there were two rabbits, I think it was, or at least this is the legend at least, two rabbits near where they founded the town, and the way you say two rabbits in Aztec is Ometoxtla, and so the town name is now San Gabriel Ometoxtla, and that's how pretty much all the towns are there except for Puebla itself. I don't really know what Puebla means, but so yeah, the mission is the states of Puebla and Tlaxcala. It's like when the Spanish conquered Mexico, they went through the mission. Like they had help from the people of Tlaxcala to help them conquer the Aztecs. Like there's part of my mission has like the supposed road that they took when they crossed the mountains to go over into Mexico City. Another cool thing that happened in my first area actually, was all the events that happened on Cinco de Mayo. Cinco de Mayo was in Puebla, and so they have these forts on a hill in the middle of the city, and they're, as far as I know, they're still the same forts from the time of the battle. And so you go there, and it's a huge thing. When Cinco de Mayo comes around in Puebla, unless there's something really wrong going on in the city at that time, it's like the city and the state fair and all these different things going on at once. People have a good time just going and seeing these different all the different things that Puebla has to offer. All the merchants coming in with stuff that they can make and sell it in different parts of the state. They don't celebrate it anywhere else either. Like Cinco de Mayo is pretty much just a holiday they celebrate in Puebla, and then it's an excuse, I guess, here for everyone to go ahead and get drunk and party in the U.S. But in Puebla, that's their thing. There's differences between what we in the U.S. think of as Mexican food and what they eat in Mexico. Something that you hear about all the time, but for example, if you go to Mexico and you ask for an enchilada, you aren't going to be getting this big old fatty tortilla filled with all sorts of things with huge amounts of salsa on top. It's probably going to be a smaller tortilla with maybe a little bit of like, I don't know, like ripped up pieces of chicken in there, long and thin with some sauce on top, but it's not the big thing we have here in the United States. Another thing that they have in Puebla specifically is this sauce that's called mole, and they pretty much just they have this stuff called mole poblano, which is how you say it's from Puebla, and it's like a chocolate salsa kind of thing, and so it's this weird mixture. Like it tastes good. It's a kind of an acquired taste though, because it's like, you've got the sweetness from kind of the sweetness of the chocolate combined with the spiciness of it being a salsa. And I think the story goes that it was made one time back 400 or 500 years ago, that someone, like some big person, like a Catholic bishop or something, was traveling through the area, and made a surprise visit to Puebla, and so they didn't have any actual like really big meals they could make, so they just kind of emptied out their pantries and kind of mashed it all together, mixed it all up, and that was mole. They had some chocolate and some peppers and chilies and different things, and it came out. And so it's pretty good. Like I said, it's kind of an acquired taste, but you'll find it sometimes, and you'll find it poured on top of burritos. You'll just find it poured on top of just plain chicken. You'll just eat it with tortillas. You'll find it in tamales. That's how I got used to it, was eating it in tamales, and then when I had it in larger quantities, I was already kind of used to it, so it didn't really make me all that sick, and it was pretty good. Another thing, kind of switching topics a little bit to the history, is you can go to, there's this one town in Puebla, and it's called Cholula, and it's kind of a suburb of Puebla, I think. And this town has pyramids, and they're not like these hugely known pyramids like the ones you hear about like in Mexico City and different things, but they're supposedly some of the largest pyramids in the world. And so it was fun for us because we'd go to this place, Cholula, and the zone leaders actually lived about a 5-minute walk at most from these pyramids. Their house was like right by the base of them. And so every time we'd get together and meet at the zone leader's house in Cholula, we'd eventually go over and walk around the pyramids. There was a soccer field right by, so we'd always end up playing soccer in the shadows of this pyramid. And there's some cool stuff. There's this place where like you can be standing in like the middle of this pyramid complex, where they'll be like in the middle of a courtyard with a pyramid behind them and parts of it also coming out around them. And if they stand right in this exact spot, you can clap there, and about 100 feet away, outside of the pyramid box, you can hear the clapping loud and clear as if you were standing like 5 feet away. And so that was pretty cool. The church is pretty strong in Puebla. There's a couple of towns that have had missionaries there or like church members there for a couple of generations, which is really, really weird for Mexico. And so they had there's this town called Neoltican, and Neoltican has a stake. And it's fairly average for like a decent sized Mexican town, but the town has, when I was there, 8 or 9 wards. They split it into 2 stakes right after I left. And it was like one of the first places where the church and missionaries had success after they arrived in Mexico. It was right by the mountain. It was right by the foot of some of these like volcanic mountains that divided Puebla from Mexico City. And so they just came down from the mountains. Some went to Mexico City, some went to Puebla, and they had success. There's an old chapel in the area. Another area that has a lot of members is the town of San Gabriel Metoxla, that has smaller than Neoltican, but it has 3 wards split up between, like, within the town. So the church work there has been fairly successful. Today there's 9 or 10 stakes, I think, lots of wards. Since they split it into Puebla North and South, the number of missionaries in the area has doubled. So it's a good time. They're having a lot of good success there. A lot of people getting baptized and being able to find the gospel in their lives.